Hey friends, welcome back once again to my channel. Do I need to introduce myself to you all? Okay, so if this is your first time on this channel, my name is Peace and I live in Japan. So guys, I clocked 1 year in Japan some weeks ago, and I just decided to make a video, like a recap of my experience here in Japan so far and just my life in general for the past 1 year living in Japan. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so that my channel can grow. Please, we need to grow. We're great anyways, and I really appreciate all my subscribers. Thank you for your support so far. So let's get right into the video. First of all, this is like a gisting video. So I would be gisting you guys my experience so far in this country. And if you are someone that is planning to come here, well, you may want to watch this video till the end so that you will know what to expect and you will get prepared. First of all, I'm going to start from when I landed in Japan. When I got to Japan, I went to my hotel. I did like some, I think, 5 days training. And after that, I was asked, or we were asked to go to our different prefectures. I think that is where my story starts. I remember before I came to Japan, I was talking to a friend. I expressed my fear. I remember I told him that I was so, you know, a bit afraid of how my life would be in Japan, especially because I do not speak the language. So I was like, how will I get around? How will I find my way to the hotel? How would I get to my, place of work just like that? Because honestly, no one is gonna hold you by the hand to take you to all these places. So you have to figure out some things, most of the things by yourself. So that was a bit of a challenge for me, and that was my fear. After my training, or after our training, we headed to the train station from the hotel together. And then I remember that I forgot my jacket. So I had to go back to the hotel to pick up my jacket while my colleagues left. So at the time I got out of the hotel, I was so nervous. They had left. So I finally managed to locate the train station by myself. When I got to the train station, I saw my colleagues at the other side of the subway, like the other side. And I was wondering, how did they get there? How can I just wanted to be with them because I was so nervous about traveling alone in a country where I don't speak the language. I was very nervous. Unfortunately, they left me. I saw the workers at the train station, the train drivers, they were all helpful. So I was able to find a train to my prefecture. And in fact, that was the first time I entered a bullet train. I took a bullet train from Tokyo to my prefecture, and I got to my prefecture at no. When I got to my prefecture, I had to take another train to my city. So let me explain better. It's just like you're in Nigeria and you travel to Lagos. So when you get to Lagos, you have to find, your way to either Lagos Island or Surulere or somewhere. There are different cities. So I got to like my prefecture, but I had to take a train to my city. That was another challenge. In fact, I will never forget that experience. So I got to my prefecture, and I was confused. I didn't know how to locate the train, the subway, how to take the train, how to take the next train, nothing. And I was just standing there confused and frustrated because I had walked for like an hour. I had gone round the train station. I was at the train station, but just to find the platform, the subway, it was a challenge for me. So as I was standing there confused, I was even crying because I was so frustrated. And anyone I stopped to ask, oh, do you understand English? Because my Japanese was nothing. They would say, oh, no, they don't understand. So I was skeptical about asking anyone. So while I was there trying to figure out my way, some ladies walked up to me and they were so excited. They tried speaking to me, but I didn't understand what they were saying. So one of them took out her phone to type what she was saying to me. And when I read it, she was actually admiring my hair. They were trying to say that, oh, my hair is beautiful, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I did braids. Like, I braided my hair. I was shocked, actually. I was like, oh, okay. Well, actually, that was not what was doing me at that time. So in my mind, I was like, this is not what is doing me. I need to figure out my way, and you cannot even help me because you don't speak English. So, anyways, I just had to be kind, friendly, and smiled and told them, oh, thank you. And I just had to fake the smile because I wasn't smiling. I was crying. I was frustrated. So after walking for like over an hour, I finally saw an American, a Black American. And I was so excited. I walked up to her. I spoke English because I knew that, oh, she speaks English. Even if she doesn't speak English, I mean, it's either she speaks English or French, and I can speak both. So I walked up to her, and then she directed me, and I was able to find the platform and took the train to my city after spending almost 2 hours there. So that was my first GGC experience. So what I would advise anyone coming to Japan, if you don't speak Japanese and if you're like me that is nervous about um, speaking to people you don't really know or asking for direction or something, you don't need to be nervous because Japanese are always nice to foreigners. So when they meet you for the first time, they would be willing to help you. Also, you can go to the information office, like, or information center. There is always one at the train station, especially major train stations. You would find the office, and the workers there speak little English. And even if they don't, they would try to help you. So that was a mistake I made. I didn't know. So I was just left all alone. So that was my first welcome to Japan experience. My first day at school, I was nervous. I think it's normal to be nervous. The first reason I was nervous was because I do not speak the language. I didn't understand what they were saying, and I was just clueless. I had to introduce myself to all the students, well, all the classes, like throughout that week. I was just introducing myself to all of them. I remember introducing myself to one of the classes, and they were all looking at me. I think that was like the first grade. They didn't understand what I was saying. So the JTE had to step in. Like, since I spoke fast, I didn't know. That was my first experience. So with time, I got to learn that I had to speak slowly. I just did my self introduction. For some classes, they were so excited, especially for the elementary school students. They were so excited to see me. And guys, my hair was the center of attraction. Jesus Christ. Everybody wanted to touch my hair. Everyone wanted to know how I did my hair. Everyone wanted to know how long it took for me to make my hair. So I actually became a celebrity in my schools because of my hair. But generally, my teaching experience has been wonderful because one of the reasons I wanted to teach in Japan or outside my country was because of the experience. I wanted to see or experience how things are done in other countries, and teaching here really gave me that opportunity, of which I am grateful for, actually. And there is something I really admire about the Japanese students. I like the fact that they are respectful. This is my experience, remember. So they are respectful at my schools. They are. And I love the fact that they are so independent. I love the fact that you don't need to tell them what to do. They know what to do at every given time. They are very coordinated, like they are very organized. They know what to do. I have never heard a teacher shouting, oh, stop there. Oh, tucking your shirt. Oh, wear your shoe. Do the, no. I mean, I have taught in my country. I know how we control students. You have to talk. You have to keep talking. But it's not like that here. And that's because the students know what to do. You don't need to tell them. I mean, you can tell them, but you don't need to shout. Everything is just organized, and it's something I really admire about them. So I want to talk about my most embarrassing moments at school. This one I would not forget. Okay, so I don't know. I'm sure I am not the only one that have experienced this. And if you have been teaching in this country and you have also experienced it, please, leave a comment in the comment section. I want to know your experience. So on this day, I was at school, my junior high school, and we were having this Kahoot quiz. and there was a question, and one of the question was the word grandparents. Is it spelled differently or together? Okay. So I was orchestrating this quiz, you know, after the time is up, I will say the correct answer and then we'll move to the next question. So when it was time for me to give the right answer for that question, I said grandparent is spelled differently. Just like that. I just said it randomly, and then I noticed the class was quiet and they were all looking at me like, oh. And my other JTE, he was at the back, he was looking at me like, so like it's wrong. It's and I was standing in front of the class. I could see all the students staring at me like, you're wrong, you're wrong. Honestly, at that time, I wasn't thinking if it's spelled differently or together. Not that I don't know. You know, sometimes you can just forget how to spell some words. So that was what was happening at that time. I just forgot how how it is spelled. If it's spelled together or differently. I was just lost. I didn't know. Not that I don't know, but at that time I had forgotten. So everyone was like staring at me. The class was quiet. And then the GTE came and said, okay, it is spelled together. I was like, oh yes, oh Jesus Christ, sorry, I forgot. And he was like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. But at that time, Jesus Christ, I felt so embarrassed. I was like, and the thing is that as an English teacher, you are the English consultant. They come to you to ask you questions. Okay, how is this spelled? What does this mean? You know, and they're not difficult questions, actually. As long as you speak English, you can actually answer those questions. But just at that time, I was like, you know, English teacher, you're folding your hand, you know, everything. Boom. And, you know, Japanese like things to be done perfectly. You know, sometimes there is almost no room for mistakes when you're working with a Japanese. He wants everything to be perfect. And so at that time, although I'm a foreigner and yeah, they could excuse you, but I just felt embarrassed. I felt awkward. That was my most embarrassing moment at school. Apart from that experience, there are also times I have made some errors in class, and sometimes I just remember and correct myself. You know, another thing is if you're not a T1 in the class, T1, I mean like the lead teacher in the class, there is every possibility for you to be absent minded, and that also can make one make mistakes. So sometimes when I am in the class and I'm not the T1, sometimes I just get carried away. I just poof. I never knew that I could make so many mistakes until I started recording myself, started, you know, recording videos and posting videos. And after watching this video, it's possible that I would have made like 10 grammatical errors, but I can't keep myself. I can't keep myself. So I have actually learned to let things go sometimes because we are not perfect, and I have come to realize that, you know what, I'm not perfect, I still make mistakes, but that shouldn't continue. Like, I don't have to keep making mistakes, especially in the classroom. My second most embarrassing moment in Japan was using chopsticks. So I remember I went out with my friend and his colleague and we were having lunch. So because I was new and I didn't know how to use the chopsticks, I didn't know how to use chopsticks to eat rice. I was like, how am I gonna do this? But I was determined to learn, and so I was always trying to use the chopsticks to eat. So at that time, she was so embarrassed because we were outside, and I kept, you know, trying to pick my food with the chopsticks, and it wasn't working. And she was like, you know what? You can use your hands. Just use your hand, pick it up like this, and just put it in your mouth. I said, oh, thank you, but I want to use it. So I could see the reaction on her face that she was so embarrassed because we were outside. And you know, Japanese, they like this, like ceremony. They like everything to be proper. Everything has to be perfect. You have to be on point. You have to know how to use your chopsticks. You have to sit a certain way. So she was kind of embarrassed that I was struggling to use the chopsticks. Instead of her to teach me. Also, at school, during school lunch, I noticed whenever I'm eating, everyone is, their faces are like, no one is going to teach you how to use it because they don't want to embarrass you. They feel you might feel embarrassed. So no one is going to look at you. They won't look at you. But I mean, I could feel this on my table, especially. When to consign me, I said I must use these chopsticks. I must learn how to use it. And I continued to use it. Honestly, at some point, I was so tired because at the end of the day, I would be the last person to finish my lunch. Everyone would be done with their food, and I would be the only one eating, struggling to use the chopsticks. I had been watching videos on how to use the chopsticks. I was always watching videos, but still, to use it was just difficult. So one day, I was just scrolling on Instagram and I just saw a video how to use the chopsticks. I think the video was like 10 seconds. And after I watched that video once, I watched it again. I brought out my chopsticks and practiced. And that was how I started. That was how I knew how to use the chopsticks. From that day to now, I use the chopsticks perfectly. And I was like, what's happening? I've been watching this video on YouTube for months. And just this 10 seconds video on Instagram taught me how to use the chopsticks perfectly. Right now, I can eat with the chopsticks. I can eat anything with the chopsticks. So after I learned how to use the chopstick, the next day I went to school and during lunch, I was eating with the chopsticks. Everyone started commenting, oh, wow, sugoi. My principal was walking and he saw me using it. And I was like, oh, good, good, the good, the good. Everyone was commenting. They were really happy that I finally learned how to use the chopsticks. I want to talk about racism in Japan, like my racist experience. Okay, so people always ask me, oh, how is Japan? Are they racist and stuff like that? So I've had like two cases where I experienced racism, actually. So the first was when I came here newly, I think my third month in Japan, my friend, I met a friend actually. She is Chinese and she speaks English, and she speaks perfect Japanese as well. So she told me, okay, there is this school I could go to learn Japanese because I told her I wanted to learn how to speak Japanese. So she took me to this school where she learned, and the teachers are volunteers. I was always going there, but there was this day I went there, and I think the second day I was making taking pictures. So my second time, and I wanted to like take pictures and send to my friends, family. Oh, I'm not learning Japanese, stuff like that. I mean, I love taking pictures, and so they were all talking, and the teachers or our teachers then were old people. So they were not young people, old retired people that just volunteer to teach Japanese. So I was doing that, and one of them said something and started smiling. I was also smiling. And then my friend was angry. I saw her face and she said something. She spoke in Japanese, stuff like that, and her mood changed. So while we were going back home, she was saying that she doesn't like that woman because she's this, that. But she was really ranting. I'm like, why are you ranting? Okay, what? She's just old. So old people have issues. So you don't need to take it personal. And then she said, do you know what she said about your country? She said something terrible. And that was why I was angry. I was like, oh, okay. She didn't interpret what she said. So I didn't ask. So when we got to, we met a friend of ours that also speaks English, and he also speaks Japanese. And she was like, do you know what this person said? And she spoke it in Japanese, what the lady or the woman said. And he was like, oh, really? He said, she said that about her country. Like they just said something about Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know. So when I saw their reaction, I mean, his reaction and what they were saying, I didn't ask. I didn't bother to ask them, oh, what was the meaning of that? I just knew that she said something terrible about my country, and I stopped. Like I stopped going there. So that was it. That was my first experience. So the second happened this month of April, my 12th month in Japan. It happened. So I went for lunch with a friend. Before we got in, he was like, are you sure they're going to let us in? And I was like, of course, because I have never been rejected or I have never been denied access to any restaurants. So why wouldn't they let us in? I sounded very confident. We got in and we met. While we were going in, we saw that, there were some free tables because the door to the restaurant was kind of transparent, so we could see inside. So we saw that there were some free tables, and then we went to the reception and she asked us if we wanted a table. We said yes, and she went in and came back and said she's sorry all the tables are taken. There is no free table, stuff like that. And we were surprised. While we were there talking, we saw some Japanese going into the restaurants. And my friend was like, okay, did we come back? And I think she said, oh, we don't need to come back, stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. And she was so polite and she was, oh, sorry, sumimasen. We went back. While we were going, we saw other Japanese going into the restaurant. Like, and he was like, I told you. That was my first time experiencing such. And I felt awkward, like me, like this. And I just fine, like, I'm fine like this. People sent me away because of my color. Oh, Jesus. So all these things I used to hear, all these people that used to come online to rant about racism and everything is actually real. This is it. This is it. Oh my God. Yeah, we went to another restaurant and had lunch, and that was it. So that was like my second experience. The challenges I faced as a newcomer in Japan was one, navigating the train station. Another challenge was buying the wrong items. I was always buying the wrong things from the supermarket. We have translation app. I have the app on my phone, but I just feel lazy to use it. I don't want to start, translating everything. It takes time for me, and it makes shopping boring. So I just don't use it most times and end up making mistakes. So please ensure you use your translation app so you won't make mistakes like me. You won't end up buying what you're not supposed to buy. How I survived living in a country where I do not speak the language. The first thing was, first of all, appreciate their culture. When I came here, I had an open mind. I love learning about other people's culture, and I was open. So I appreciate the culture. I join in, festivals, events happening in the city, stuff like that. I was always getting involved. I just participate in a little way. I remember going to the first Bondori festival, that's Bond Dance Festival in my city. When it was time to dance, I joined at the queue and everyone was laughing. Oh, who is this black girl? I joined dancing, trying to dance, trying to, show them that I am interested in the culture. There is nothing, it's fun and stuff like that. I respect the culture. I respect the rules too, because there are so many rules in this country. So I respect the rules. I accept the culture, the food. I am open to trying different food, and I've tried a lot that I like. For some I don't like, I just politely decline. Honestly, the culture has kind of influenced me in a way. I've learned to be more patient, more understanding, more respectful to people's culture and privacy. I've actually, learned to see things differently. I've actually learned to, be more polite. How I also overcome boredom in a way was because I was intentional about my social life. So I just had to have this work-life balance, not going to work all the time and then forget about your social life. I try to balance it. I don't go out all the time, but the few times I go out, I try to explore the country. It's a way I keep myself sane in this country, because it could be boring here, boring, lonely. I have a colleague that resigned after working for the first term. So he resigned and went back to his country because he was like, I can't stay here. I also heard of someone that was about to resign like 1 month or 2 months of her stay in Japan. So sometimes it could be very lonely, boring, and especially if you don't have friends. So far, it has been wonderful, and I have successfully completed 1 year teaching in Japan, and of course started my second year. And I hope this second year would be great. Thank you so much for watching my video, and remember to like my video, subscribe to my channel, and of course I would see you in my next video. Bye for now.